You're live? Okay. All right. Ready to open the March 3rd meeting with Raleigh County Commissioners. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. Good morning. Cool morning. After all these like it.
Yesterday.
Don't see anyone on the Zoom or any public meeting. We'll look at our comments. Let's start with commission comments.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of stuff this week. Monday, I attended the intergovernmental luncheon held by Zoom, conducted by the Manhattan City Commission, which reports were made by various governmental agencies, including Fort Raleigh, City of Manhattan, NBAF, number 383 School Board, and several others. It's interesting that NBAF staff will be moving into their facility, transitioning to in-person offices on March 28th, so it should be fully operational at that point. So, Tuesday, I attended and chaired the Common Table Board meeting via Zoom. All meal providers are working towards serving meals in person, with the Methodist Church doing a dine-in alternative. So to-go boxes are provided for those who don't want to stay. And there are several other locations doing the hybrid dine-in and takeout, but some are still totally takeout. So depending on the church, the facility. Wednesday, I attended the Military Relations Committee luncheon at the Holiday Inn across from K-State. Well-attended event. The whole room was packed. So, the program was presented by Fort Riley, and it was on the process of relocating the Afghanistan refugees to the United States, and how they were, how the Army helped relocate them in various towns and cities throughout the country. Local group that has been working with about 31 families that have come to Manhattan reported that 30 of the families are now in their own homes. The next step will be trying to get them, employment. Language is a big thing. So many people and groups have helped with the transition to the new lives here. So they were needing like one microwave and a bicycle. So I think they got most of that together yesterday. People were volunteering. So later that afternoon, I attended the West Loop Business Association meeting. The main presentation was made by Jeff Morris of K-State. He discussed how the university is adapting practices to attract more students, as their enrollment is down about 12.7% this year. Jeff has about 2 more weeks before he retires. So I was probably glad it was. The business of the month, they always have a business of the month at the West Loop Business Association, and it was the Trust Company at Mark Knackendoffel. I talked about how their business has grown in the past 3 years. It's amazing. They started with like 3 people, and now they're like 50 businesses. And history is really impressive. So as usual, all the attendees at the meeting talked about what their business or group is involved with. So it's always a good informative session. LEAP, the trampoline place, is going to have a ribbon cutting and grand opening on March 10th, which we're all invited to.
They already had fun.
They had a soft opening, I think. This is the ribbon cutting act.
Oh, okay.
So the chamber, I believe. So, and yesterday evening, I went to handbill practice and then Ash Wednesday services at the Lutheran Church. So that's all I have to do.
Okay. Monday morning post commission meeting, I did spend a little time up with the staff in the appraiser's office. Wanted to give them my thoughts and condolences with the passing of Greg in the office, and just wanted to hear from me personally and reassure them that we're going to provide everything that they need to continue to do what they need to do in the in the short term and obviously in the long term during this difficult time. So thought that was important. So Monday, I also attended the intergovernmental luncheon. It was nice to see updates from any of the local and regional entities, as we usually do, and some of the challenges some of those entities, much like ourselves, are facing with the Kansas legislature in session at the moment. Kind of packed. There's quite a few people in there. Good to hear about MBAF and them getting situated and moved in. So that's a good step forward. And looking forward to doing this in person again for the first time since February of 2020. It's been a long time. So next month will be really interesting for this meeting, to say the least. So Tuesday evening, I enjoyed some pancakes for Fat Tuesday from Early Edition as part of Pancakes for Pawnee, the yearly fundraiser to help support services at Pawnee Mental Health. Food was delicious. Early Edition's excellent. There's nothing that said there. Because of COVID and not really knowing where everything was going, they did a drive-through event, had it set up, streamlined very, very well. Hopefully next year we can do that in person at both restaurants there on the west side and here downtown. Let's see, what else did I put on there? Yeah, I didn't hear as I wrote this what their numbers were, but I did see this morning they said 471 pancakes. I don't know how that corresponds to individuals, but Early Edition, they're almost like a frisbee size. So yeah, so it's not a small deal there. Knight Anderson Architects and a couple other people put together those cards that she was talking about that change color. It's kind of cool. Kind of reminds me of those baseball cards back in the day, those action ones where you turn and flip them when they were batting or running or doing something that we're probably not going to see this year because of the lockout. So anyway, that is what it is. So let's see. I wanted to give a shout out to the Raleigh County Fire District of 15 volunteer firefighters who spent basically all Sunday and pretty much all of Monday fighting a 700 plus acre wildfire up in the north part of the county by Sweet Creek. I haven't heard yet what caused the fire necessarily. Could be many different things. It didn't sound like it was anything intentional, or I hope not anyway. But it's a good point to point out this time of the year in particular to understand and pay attention to current weather conditions, fire dangers, heat burning restrictions, and notices that they come out. And I say this a lot, but just use some common sense until Mother Nature decides to cooperate with us and give us that thing called rain. 40% chance, I think, Sunday. Is that what I'm saying? 40% this time of year is not all that much. So it is what it is. So fortunately, no one was harmed or hurt in the fire, and no structures damaged along with it. So, and I guess lastly, tough week for K-State athletics once again. I guess the men are pretty much all but done from any type of postseason play, I'm assuming.
Still in play for the NIT. But
yeah, they had to win Saturday and probably at least win 2 games in the tournament. And that might still work out, possibly.
We're trying to add a game.
Are they?
Next week.
Okay. Yeah.
To replace the one that got
canceled twice.
Yeah.
Because it was scheduled, then they rescheduled with somebody and scheduled it again.
Scheduling it again.
That would help. I didn't hear that, so that would help.
Yeah.
It looks like the women might be kind of running out of gas this time of the year too. And West Virginia, it just looked bad. I don't know. And baseball team starting off 1-6. Cal State Fullerton's a pretty good team though that they lost to, but still 1-6. Like I said, probably no MLB this year, so I don't know what I'm going to do all spring. really don't know at this point in time. So that's all I've got.
All right. Monday, I also attended the intergovernmental luncheon. They've kind of reviewed who, it was our crowd. There's one person missing is the new K-State president. With a chance for him to meet everyone, I thought. Then after meeting, I stopped by the museum just to see how things were going out there with the changes. Talked to Don about how things have been going with their handling. So they have had just in the last couple of months an increase in attendance. Finally, people are starting to come back in, which is good. And Atlanta is supposed to be coming back in the next week or 2. But they've kept going.
She brought the baby in last week.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Dawn said she take the baby in. Pick up time.
Just right in the office.
That's right in here. Oh,
Yep.
Tuesday, I had my ears lowered. If you don't know what that means, ask a boomer.
Ask a boomer. There's a new hashtag.
Yeah.
No, actually, that's not a new hashtag. Other than the fact it's coming from him. Ironically, he's a boomer.
And that afternoon, because the weather was so good, I went out and started working in the yard.
Yeah.
After sitting around all winter, I didn't last as long as I usually do out there. Getting hot and sweaty and on March didn't make sense, but I got a lot of work, got some work done, but it shows that I sat around too much over the winter.
We all have.
And then Wednesday, I attended the Flint Hills APA board meeting. The auditor reviewed their year-end report, went through it a little bit there. And then the budget work for the next year, like everyone is getting started. Ridership is up slightly from last year, but still down 50% from pre-pandemic numbers. And she said that's in looking across the nation, it's a national trend. That's about where most places are. People aren't going back to that. They have 2 new bus shelters are out for bid, one at Flint Hills Gardens and one in West Loop. And then they're also working with the city of Manhattan on 3 more shelters, other places in Manhattan. And then hiring bus drivers is an ongoing concern. And then increased costs, particularly fuel, are stretching the budget already.
Saw 344 yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm talking it's going to go up another 20 cents.
Another 20.
Another 20.
Yeah.
And my daughter lived in Kansas City said it was 350 already last weekend.
I'd say for them, that's a big deal. That's a plus. So
For everyone.
Yeah, it is
Economy.
for everybody. But that's all I had.
Okay, first item we have for business is highway use permit for the city of Manhattan.
Make a motion. We approve the highway use permit for the city of Manhattan.
I would second that.
It moved and seconded to approve the highway use permit for the city of Manhattan. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Chairman, please.
It's good to put that up there. I've heard complaints about that speeding on that road.
Yeah, they want to make sure they're aware of the speed zone,
Yeah.
especially now that it's starting to close the new section.
And then please, Kim.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next, we have Raleigh County Personnel Action Form, Tammy Robinson, Budget Finance Officer, Clerk's Office, Separation of Service.
I don't usually interject, but feel free not to sign.
I was just actually fixing to say, I don't think I can do it. I really don't.
We say tonight.
I particularly can't do this one until we get a player to be named later and proper compensation from Garrett County to at least balance it out. A conversation's going to come up.
I had a meeting at Gary County the very next day after this was announced, and so I came back and I told Tammy, and I went over there to TPH on it.
That didn't do any good though, did
It didn't do any darn good, no.
TP, the HR man.
It was better than egging, you know.
Well, I see the headline in the newspaper this afternoon now.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be a fun one at least. All in good fun.
But I will be asking for compensation.
Okay, I think that's legitimate.
Commissioners have any changes to the minutes?
I didn't see
If none, I
anything.
could use a motion, please.
Go ahead and make a motion that we approve the minutes from the Raleigh County Commission meeting dated February 28th, 2022.
I would second that.
Been approved and seconded. Been moved and seconded to approve the February 28th minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
How do the tentative agendas look, commissioners?
I thought I had a question on something there.
Several press conference items. Any items for next week's press conference, commissioners? If you think of your thing, John, just drop me an email.
Okay.
Or if you think of it later. Okay, commissioners, 9 o'clock, you have Mr. Ellen.
Oh, yeah, I know what
Bid
it was. Actually, technically isn't the 10th, but we got a special law board meeting and a city county meeting scheduled at the same time.
Yeah, we had talked about that. I had assumed that this city would change that or cancel it. Would be my guess. Yeah, there's no way that can be pulled off because
It's the same place, yeah.
well, same place.
Yeah,
Plus most of the
Linda's,
players aren't going to be there.
The mayor is also the chair of the law board, so.
We wouldn't be able to have a quorum of our, not that that matters anyway, I guess there, but
I just assumed they canceled.
I didn't think we had any agenda topics for it. So
When it comes there, I think it should be canceled.
Well, there was on Amanda's thing, she had something that be brought up.
oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, something on their notes.
Well, and it's been so hard to get the law board together in special meetings.
Special meetings, regular meetings later.
Well, yeah, it's not personnel.
Well, I know. It's,
Yeah, it's like two actually.
Oh, Perry County got several city mechanics. Oh, that's us. Vivian.
that's their problem.
We got directions.
Yeah. Could have at least given us a heads. No, actually, I talked to Trish about that position back when we did KCCA back in June or July or whenever it was. It was hot. I just remember that. So, she was talking about how they wanted to set that position up and was asking about our setup over here. And probably should have.
Gave you too much information.
I jinxed us. That's what I did. From now on, when they start talking about employees, and be like, no,
No, they don't.
all of ours are horrible. We're
Yeah.
gonna have to fire everybody and start all over. You don't want them.
You can't have them.
Yeah, you're not gonna want them. They're not good. We're
Because
constantly
our
having to
HR department's gonna TP your office.
egg your windows of your car so you can find out which car is yours. That's our fight for these things.
Or hear much from Berry County, so I don't know.
There were a pretty good conversation this week about what to do with the high school and the high school property over there. It was combined. I guess they have a city, county, and school district meeting or something.
I found it coming out. I've been hearing about it. I drove out there.
I've had several chances. Yeah, I've had several chances to take a tour, but I can't do it.
What? I didn't take a tour. We just got
New Junction City High School. I can't do it.
Yeah.
the
Use
middle school across the road is just as massive.
Yeah. Being an MHS grad, I just can't set foot in those places.
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
And she's teachers, they're retired by now.
Yeah. It does look impressive, though. I do have to say that. Got 10 minutes here. So I had something on my calendar here before I forget. Let's see. 24. Yeah.
Yeah, right now.
Anything that's two sides. They just sat there for a long time. Established. On that side, the body, storms. Split two sides and then split the other two sides. Or sometimes it's all
Are you going to be on the committee for looking over the plans for that ambulance station? Yeah.
Well, they're on the committee about it. It'd be looking
Well, yeah, that's true. I think, that needs to be done. I think probably all of us need to be on.
No, I've told them. David, I'll be that's what
Yeah.
in life. I'm going to be very interested in watching that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I've noticed that surprised me when I'm tired. I go somewhere and I see buildings when I didn't know where it was. I used to know, even though I didn't work on every building, obviously, but just from the network, you'd say, oh, so-and-so's building, I knew everything. I test what's that? What are they on?
Yeah, that's true.
I've gotten so used to it, and I didn't realize.
You always knew what was going on.
Yeah, I always knew everything, all the buildings going on around. And now I don't. It surprised me how it bugged me for a while.
I know the feeling.
I've just gotten used to always knowing what that.
Yeah. I'll say a house going on. Where did that come from? Because I used to always go to the building permits and see what's going on all over town or different places. Where did that come from? One thing I did, now that John said, one thing I did suggest on that new building up in wherever we put it is to put a classroom in there for like health classes. I talked to Julie. And she said that she'd love to do outreach for healthcare class.
That was one thing I found some notes that this woman had talked. I made a note of myself that that finding a plan. I had thought about that. I was thinking we just get in the doctor's office. There's some thing to use there, which they don't really have a conference room there.
Yeah, but Julie would be she was excited about that. She said, oh yeah, we've not done any outreach to the North County. So if we had a classroom in there that they could have some classes and some outreach, and, yeah, blood pressure checks and different
No,
things.
that'd be great.
Yeah, so we want to make sure, I mentioned it to, or I did talk to David about it. I thought that was a good idea, but as we go through this, it'd be good to
No, that'd be, yeah,
do that.
that sounds bad. That would be.
Yeah, but, you know, they could do some of the racing Raleigh, they could do, you know, all sorts of stuff.
Just, like I said, announcement stuff. That seems like
Yeah.
the department started and stuff. And all that. It wouldn't take much.
It wouldn't take much.
An extra room there.
Yeah, an extra room, maybe some, you know, screen, and the ability to zoom. I think people, you know, it might take a while to get it started, but I think people will be really receptive to it.
Yeah, I think so.
Got another meeting I got to miss this afternoon for the law board meeting too. So
It was like 4 to 6. For this last that.
Meeting yesterday, I need to go out and sit down and learn more about the data. They're talking about, didn't think I wanted to, but also I got put in vice chair since you're
Oh,
gone.
did you? I figured that. My airline was back down a bit.
Well, no, he's gonna go ahead and
Is he gonna go
stay.
ahead and
He's
just-
gonna be an at-large member.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
Okay.
so he agreed to stay on as chair.
Yeah, well,
Because everybody's going, I don't know, how about you? How about that?
he did show a lot of times.
it's the way a lot of those work.
Yeah.
You're here good.
Kind
Kind of what happened with the
Okay,
NPO.
you're it.
The mayor over in Junction City was chair of that for the first 2 years there. And then I was late getting on the Zoom, and that was the price to pay for that one.
Well, I was concerned because I thought I might have to leave the meeting early and I saw the election officers then, I thought, uh-oh. And I did.
Better
But they got it
stick
done.
They're still doing that Zoom. I went out there, when I first got on, I thought, they didn't say Zoom, I went out there, that was the only one.
Did it make you go Zoom?
No, actually, I
Okay.
let me sit there in the man's office and just.
And they used to be monthly.
Yeah.
But now it's just quarterly.
No, well, it's because Aaron never wanted to, he was too busy.
Oh, really?
Nobody would show up. So they said,
Not interested in those things.
"I'm glad you're on that." I think it's going to be on all
Obviously, so
military relations. That was really a good meeting.
Yeah, they have.
We had big attendance.
Yeah, this is gonna be.
I don't know if I'm going to see. Johnny, you're gonna go over and jump on the trampolines and.
They want to keep those nice for the kids. That would probably not be a good idea. Too heavy for
It's
that.
good exercise, I guess. And friends have trampolines,
Right. Wow. Ready, what we're doing. Second.
Okay, looks like we've got a bid opening for grant maintenance. Is that what? It's in there?
Correct.
Okay. And the first one I've got is from Garibay. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Siteworks LLC, right here in good old Manhattan. Oh, that's the letter opener went flying a mile ahead of me here. I thought I broke another computer. No, that'd really not be good. And I've been holding this with 2 hands. So. That's always nice. A check right off the top there.
That's up to you.
I know.
This is a
I
public
probably shouldn't
meeting.
have started with that.
This is a public meeting.
Probably shouldn't have started with that.
We're supposed to hand this to you a little earlier.
Yeah. I'm trying to see here. Where we got. I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking for here, I guess. Okay. It's not stapled. Okay, here we go. I've got, let's see, total cost it says for a minimum of 27 moans, and then there's some pricing for each additional. This would be the Historic Museum, Goodnow House, Health Department, FCRC building, and EMS sites. So all those total together show a total of $33,795.08. And I got
What's good for the ground maintenance. There's Garibay Site Works. Total bid $33,795.08.
Okay. Last one I've got is from Rockwell Landscape. That's also here in Manhattan. Same setup. This is for the location of the Historic Museum, Goodnow House, Health Department, FCRC building, and EMS. Total cost for 27 mowings, and then there's a separate cost for each additional one after that. Total bid I see here is $19,502.
It's quite different.
Yeah.
I got everything I got for that.
Second bid from Rothwell Landscape. 3 locations, total bid $19,000. Looks like 602.
I took it as a 5.
Oh, yeah, no, it's 6.
It's 6. Okay.
Six. Yeah.
Okay.
You had a individual fund, yeah, it's 19,602.
Really hard to turn those 5s into a 6 on the sheet. Okay. Anybody have any questions? No, I'll go ahead and make a motion that send the 2 bids back to staff for further review and recommendation.
I would second that.
And moved and seconded to forward these bids to the staff for review and recommendation. All in favor? Aye.
Yeah, next, Commissioners, you have Craig Cox, 9:15, executive session. Who currently does it? What's that? Who currently does the ground maintenance? They do. David, that big tree you're talking about taking out is the one that's on the west side of the courthouse building. Between that and RV. I like that tree.
Everybody, a lot of people seem to like that tree. That was gonna come up again a couple more times before next fall.
Huh?
It was gonna come up a couple more. Oh, the little tree.
Oh, which one?
The big one.
No.
The red oak, yeah. Same.
No.
Okay. Yeah, so it was something John and me discussed, and he was going to bring the commission about timing, taking that out, because currently it's quasi, concern in regards to the health of the tree, some of the possible falling. Not the tree itself, but that's going on. It's basically, I can explain more if you want me to.
I'm just curious. I'm sure you looked into it, but yeah, I've always liked that tree.
Yes, beautiful tree.
We noticed the guy that killed the beautiful tree.
Yeah, probably. Wouldn't be the first bad thing I can know for.
Being a St. Louis fan, it's the first one. Oh, there's your headline, Christian. Ellerman kills beautiful tree.
Please stop, says Commissioner. That'll be for the second one.
Okay.
The one right after the other.
Yeah.
Interesting to see how remote works.
I was pretty sure. Oh, really?
Well,
They're both gonna go to full time?
probably the first one will not. The second
First one will not?
Probably not. I would assume that one will probably end up using less than the full amount.
But you're gonna go in for the full amount.
They will.
Okay.
On those, go in for the full amount.
Yeah. They'll be carrying the first one.
It does, you have to if you do it by hand, it will, but if you set it down on the table, it works fine. I was doing that.
30 days.
German, did you hear the word on the street that John Ellerman's gonna be the one that kills the beautiful tree?
Over your strong objection.
What I did. Tell them that it's not the best time. Hello.
That's Tyler.
Pretty good. How about you guys?
All right.
Decided to come down here because I don't know if I can turn the video back on. I can turn it off, but I can't.
No, I know.
So,
But
just wanted to make sure. So I gotta, if I'm gonna have to come down here, I might as well just do the whole thing down here. So.
Good exercise. Run them back and forth.
Yeah, I'll do it after this, basically. That way, whenever it's, you know, shorts out.
Well, and then it cuts across so quick too. That's the other thing. It shouldn't be 80 degrees. Yeah, that's nuts. I don't like 80 when it's supposed to be 80. It's definitely not supposed to be 80 when it's supposed to be 50.
But I got some stuff from this.
Question for you guys. Does Elizabeth need to be in this executive session?
No.
No. Okay. I'm not sure. It's our in the meeting inside.
Are we trying to do some kind of a breakout thing here?
I was, no, it was more of a, she left right as soon as I said that too. No, it was, I just saw her in there and didn't know if that was the deal. It was, yeah. No, I was just trying to do it for my desk because we're super short staffed today, so.
I got for 346. I mean, I just want to. I was just in shock.
Trying to be efficient. Said trying to be efficient.
And then we saw Walmart. Now, I just saw. Yeah, you're right. It's that's a good five construction. So I'll talk to this.
Greg, how you doing?
Good, Rich, how are you?
Morning. Good. Just like closing time at the bar. You do whatever you need to do. You just can't do it here.
you don't have to go.
There's a song about that. That's from my generation. We won't go there.
Yes. You mean the song? You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Right. Right. Ironically, that's where most places would actually play at the end of the night, just as a reminder. Our generation needed reminding, apparently.
Glad I'm so far away from that portion of my life.
Me too. Me too.
That's one portion I would not want to go back to.
Yeah.
Whatever
At
midlife,
that age, yeah, but that part of it.
whatever midlife crisis I may have, it's not going to include that. I can guarantee you.
Yeah.
Oh, you never know.
Oh, I know. I don't know about all of it, but I know about that one.
Midlife crisis, this and weird stuff.
May give me a fast car, but I'm not going to go back to bars.
Oh, yeah.
Not the round ones around here anyway.
Yeah. That's just not my scene.
No.
We don't have.
There's several places that keep an ESPN Plus account. So they're like, when I cancel mine, I'm like, oh, you can always go down there and hang out, watch the game. I'm like, man, not really good.
You know, it's really pretty good to go watch a game. Just have to stop by the lunch last Saturdays at JP's.
Yeah.
They got a lot of TVs. They have all the good games on. Yeah. Have you been there?
No,
It's
I've
a
never
really
been.
good place. My kids have told me about it, and other people have told me it's a great lunch place. And they don't take tips because it's part of K-State. They will not take tips. So the price is the price.
Yeah.
So that's the one over at
Jordan.
Jordan.
It's really good.
I ordered their loaded nachos, which is supposedly an appetizer, and got those and was like, I didn't need anything else. They were really loaded. It's kind of sandwiched kind of on the, I'm trying to remember here, kind of the southeast corner there on Jardine.
And it, and it is a big burger. They are good. They're good. Need to go. It's worth it.
Well, there for a while, they were only open like in the evenings or something like that. The weekends, they weren't open all
Yeah,
day.
no,
So-
they're open for lunch.
Yeah, they are now, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
they've been there for 8-9 years. They've been there for a while. It's not new.
Yeah, and it's really nice inside. Yeah, there's parking right there.
Yeah.
There's parking right there.
Separate parking.
Oh, I've never been there.
Yeah, it's worth going.
Yeah.
We went there to watch one of the early presidential debates and stuff too.
It's
For
nice.
your dissertation.
All right. Dissertation. I move the county commission, including Chairman McKinley, Commissioner Foki, and Commissioner Ford, recess into executive session on pending litigation for the purpose of consultation with Craig Cox, Deputy Raleigh County Counselor, attorney for the commission, which would be deemed privileged, and the attorney-client relationship, an exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and the open meeting to resume in the county commission chamber at 9:30 a.m.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to go into executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, move that the Board of County Commissioners come out of executive session.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to come out of executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Also move the record reflect action shall be taken consistent with consensus reached in executive session.
Second that.
Moved and seconded to. But yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move that the county commission, including Chairman McKinley, Commissioner Foki, and Commissioner Ford recess into executive session on potential litigation for the purpose of consultation with Craig Cox, Deputy Raleigh County Counselor, and Clancy Holman, County Counselor, attorneys for the commission, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, an exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and the open meeting to resume in the county commission chamber at, we're looking at 10 a.m., correct? Okay. Amanda Webb, Planning and Development Director, Bob Isaac, Planner, and Darren Hobbs, Planning Compliance Specialist, will be present during a portion of the executive session to provide factual information.
I would second that.
And moved and seconded to go into executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'll move that the Board of County Commissioners come out of executive session.
I would second that.
The moved and seconded, come out of executive session. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'll go ahead and let the record reflect action shall be taken consistent with consensus reached in executive session.
Second that.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Time for Mandy, Commissioners. Good.
Good morning again, Commissioners. I'm the Board Planning Director. Okay, so I have my monthly staff report, of course, before you, but I do want to take the few minutes here to talk about, again, the land development regulations, the other amendments that we are proposing that we haven't yet talked about, and that has to do with a few of those things. So the first thing, and again, I do have to kind of talk a little bit quick. I don't have a lot of time to do a few things here, so I apologize. The first thing that we are proposing is basically to change the name of the document. Right now, it is Land Development Regulations for Raleigh County, Kansas. That is a bit of a mouthful. It's pretty standard for jurisdiction name, document name to go. So what we are proposing to do, Raleigh County Land Development Regulations, a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. So I think it's referenced both ways in the document itself. So again, just to kind of make it a little bit cleaner, easier to roll off the tongue there. So
How many times in that 300+ pages? Put an over and under and put some Vegas odds on that? Twice. Okay.
Yes. So that is the first thing we're looking to do or proposing to do. Then the other few things we're looking to have to do with side yard setbacks in our agricultural district, residential use designator, SF1, SF2, SF single family, SF3, 2-family residential, and multi-family residential. So right now, in our adopted regulations, there is a note for each of those zones having to do with the side yard setback. The setback increases 1 foot for every 1 foot of building height over 16 feet. So basically, if you have a required, I'm just using this as an example, required 10-foot side yard setback, but you want a 20-foot building, 20-foot tall building, you have to have a 14-foot setback on each side. So basically what that's going to do, squeeze you in and up. So it's a little bit more restrictive than I think the intention originally was. And each of these zones have a maximum height already. So we are proposing to just strike that from each of the zones so that that's not a requirement, basically. Questions on that? And then in SF2 and SF3, what we have right now is your side yard setback is 10% of your lot width. That's all we have right now. It sounds like originally we had 10% of your lot width not to exceed 10 feet. Somehow, somewhere in the many revisions we've done over these last several years, that statement fell out for reasons it just did. So basically what we have now, 10% of your lot width, now that's fine for your 50 or 100-foot lot or wide lots, that's 5 feet, 10 feet, that sort of thing. But we do have some wide lots out there that are 200, 250 feet wide. And right now what we're doing is saying you have to have a 20-foot, 25-foot setback, side yard setback on both sides. And that's pretty excessive. Honestly, that's a lot. So we are just proposing to put back in the not to exceed 10 feet that we did have in there before, but the adopted draft doesn't have that, if that makes sense. Any questions, comments on any of those things I've run through super quick?
You said not to exceed 10 feet?
Right. So basically, if you have a 200-foot wide lot, you would still only have to have 10 feet. So instead of right now, it's 10% of the lot width, so you would have to have 20 feet on both sides, which is a lot for. And again, SF2 and SF3 are our higher density districts. These are the ones where you want to concentrate the more dense development. Your homes are a bit of a smaller lot, that sort of thing. So having 25 feet setbacks on both sides is a lot.
Would you say a minimum setback or a maximum setback, or instead of not to exceed? That just like if somebody wants, I don't know, it just seems kind of like.
So our
Not to
minimum, I guess, is like the 10% of the lot width, and I think, what is that minimum lot width, 50 or 60 feet? I wanna say, in the zones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, your minimum, of course, is gonna be your 5 or 6 feet. And then again, as we're proposing, up to 10 feet.
We're requiring no more than 10 feet. Not where they have to put the house. So I'm saying, we're not requiring any more of a setback for a house than 10 feet.
That's the minimum and the maximum, basically.
What would you say, requiring 10 feet, but what if they want to step back further?
They can certainly do that, yeah. This is just a minimum required. We're saying 10 feet minimum
They can
required.
be no closer than 10 feet to that line.
Okay, I bet you said not to exceed.
Our requirement is not to exceed 10 feet. So again, we say, so for setbacks, we say you can't be more than, like Bob said, you can't be less than 10 feet from the property line, let's just say. But they can be 50. They can be, as long as they don't reduce below the 10 feet, they can be any amount they want to be. Does that make sense?
I understand your confusion. I
Yeah,
understand your confusion. So what how is the wording exactly going to say? Because I understand.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying?
I do, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so right now it's proposed as not to exceed 10 feet, but I am actually understanding your confusion.
Should say not less than 10
So
feet.
maybe,
Yeah,
and it is something.
Because they can exceed 10 feet away from there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the confusing part.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying.
So yeah, we've been talking a little bit about how we want to say that a little bit differently, because there was a little confusion in one of our planning plans as well, so. So we can definitely modify that to make more sense, but basically the gist is we're not going to require more than 10 feet, but you can.
Yeah, that's better wording, I think.
So I see that. As long as there's no concern with us
I'm not sure if
doing
first
that.
falling, yeah.
Okay, anything else with those? One more thing to cover that I haven't yet. So windows again. So we do want to add a definition on what an egress window is. Again, we are making modifications, the short-term rental part of it for egress windows. And so we believe, anytime you reference something like that, it should have a definition. So basically, we don't have a definition of what an actual egress window is. So we're going to add that definition to the section.
And you do that for the building code and reference that.
So in the short-term rental section, we're going to talk about, the minimum sizing for, the windows, the sill height, all of that different sort of stuff in the STR section.
Okay.
And then in our definitions, our article that covers all of our definitions, we're going to add in egress window as a definition, just so people know. So it's not going to have measurements on it.
So
the
it's as it
definition.
relates to the short-term rentals.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And anywhere else we would reference egress window in the entire document, but I think it's.
A lot of times, when you're discussing particulars of development or project or anything, you're very specific things. People say, well, how do you define this? How do you define that? We'll have it sitting there. The standard itself will be the standards of the short-term rental stuff. It will be defined as what it actually is. It's a general definition.
Any questions or comments on any of that we just talked about?
Another thing.
Oh, okay, thank you. One other thing, back to our licensing requirements for the short-term rentals. Right now, the language talks about it shall be unlawful for any person to operate and or advertise a short-term rental, et cetera. We're proposing just to take out the and or advertise language, because that's just creates a situation that staff's really not going to be able to regulate per se. We do have a signage section in our STR standards, so that will cover that. That would probably require us to be scouring the internet all day looking for advertisements for STRs, and that's just so. We're just proposing to strike and or advertise. Okay, any questions on any of that or anything in my staff updates? Actually, that's another item we have to cover. As usual, I'm always happy to, if you have any questions, please email me, come visit me, call me. I'm happy to do that anytime. So I just want to say that. So the other item I have before you folks today has to do with the CDBG CV grant closeout that I've been working on for quite some time. The folks of the state have been wonderfully patient with me. This was a new process for them and of course for us. And I did kind of, step into it in the midst of it. So unfortunately, there was another closeout requirement that I missed. And that basically we're just cleaning up now, we're just doing now. And basically that's we have to do a performance public hearing. And basically what that entails, we just have to have a public hearing where we talk about the grant, all aspects of the grant, the money we received, the number of businesses we helped, and the amount that we expended, basically. So Riley County received $167,000 from the Kansas Department of Commerce through the CDBG CV grant program with the intention of assisting businesses that were impacted by COVID-19. We also use these funds to assist area meal programs. So of course, all recipients had to meet certain criteria and had to be within Raleigh County limits, but outside of city and Manhattan city limits. So the program closed in July 2021. We assisted 10 businesses, and we also assisted 3 meal programs. And we distributed, of the $167,000 we were awarded, we distributed $145,448.59 in total. And of course, any amount we did expend, the state just retains. We don't keep that or anything like that. And again, so what we were required to do today, just have a public hearing summarizing all of that, making sure the public was aware of all that. So that's what, and no decision or any direction is necessary from the board. This is done just a step.
Yeah, you officially opened it up in case the public wanted to talk about it. It's a public hearing, correct?
I had put that it was open.
Okay.
I had put that it was open.
Okay.
Okay, so we're with the public hearing portion?
Yeah. Yes. Public hearing.
And I guess you just closed the public hearing then.
Yeah, if there's no comments from the public, I ask for public comments. If there are none, then you close the hearing.
Any public comments? Not you. No comments, we'll close the public hearing for the CDBG CV grant.
Thank you very much. And one other, Craig just reminded me, there is an application that I talked about, the land development regulation amendments that will be the board chair to sign in order to initiate our next step of taking the public hearing.
So we need a motion on it. Yeah, go ahead and make a motion that we approve the said application from Planning and Development for signature by the chair.
I would second that.
And move seconded to approve the application signature. All in favor? Aye.
Chairman in 2 places, please.
I appreciate all your time today.
Okay.
Next, commissioners, you have Clancy at 10:15.
Executive session.
Clancy, shouldn't be, unless he asks for one.
He did.
He hasn't asked for one yet. You never know with Clancy.
You know.
Clancy.
Morning, Commissioners. Clancy Holman, Raleigh County Councilor. I have 2 items I want to run past you today fairly quickly. First is I just want to give you a heads up that we do have a follow-up legislative conference. It will be Zoom only for the legislators on April 7th. It's going to run from 10:45 to 11:45. We discussed this some time ago as a means of, again, following up with those items that the board had on its platform, as well as dealing with any legislation that's become of interest during the session. And there's been a few of those. But we do have commitments from 3 of the 5 members of our delegation that that 7th date works. So as my past practice has been, and I always tell the delegation, for the moment I get, when I'm given alternative dates, the moment I get a majority of the delegation, that's going to be the day. So that's what we're going to run with. Hopefully we'll have the other 2 will be available. So last time I checked, I've not heard of, they may have sent something in.
One or both of our contract lobbyists and
Yes.
anybody from KAC be
We
available.
invited KAC, haven't heard if KAC's going to be there. We definitely will have one or both of our contract lobbyists. That was fine. That was a precondition of setting it up. So we'll see where it goes. It should be an interesting discussion. It'll be during the regular meeting.
Okay.
And only for now. The other item I wanted to run past you is the next county officials luncheon. You recall we're doing these on a quarterly basis now. And this one is scheduled for March 14th. The notice we've sent out previously during the past few months has been indicated in Zoom only, because that's been the truth. But I wanted to just check and see, do you want this to be a traditional meeting with a Zoom component for those who want to attend that way? What's the board's preference?
Mine's in person.
Okay.
As much as possible.
Sure.
There are some people.
If it's important enough, those 2 topics are important enough to discuss, we should be able to do it in person.
So no Zoom component on this one?
Correct.
And it will be here.
Correct.
Yes. When we say here, I'm trying to remember, did we do that?
We did it in chamber. I set up the tables here.
Did we?
We did the
Still the
tables.
appropriate thing to do.
So that will be at noon.
Yes.
Yes, noon to 1 on the 14th. That is all I have. Unless you have questions on anything. Try to answer. Thanks very much.
Break, commissioners, till 10:30.
No, it took me a while, and I was paying attention.
No, but I was just think about it for a while.
I was paying attention first.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
A little bit more seasonal today.
Actually left the windows open last night. It was not really all that chilly.
I was not sleeping last
Yeah.
night. It was too hot for me.
I didn't really actually sleep last night, so give or take.
Morning, Ron. Good morning.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't see you there.
I didn't catch you there either. Snuck right in on us, huh?
Stuff needs to be first talking about him.
Yeah.
I know. You guys got to warn me.
That's coming up on our favorite season around here, construction season, right?
When did it? I didn't know that.
I didn't never really quit. Yeah,
Stop
you're right.
this year, really.
Yeah, it hasn't been.
There's. Have to turn a corner.
But spring rain's coming up officially.
That's
I hope. Spring's a few days away. We haven't had any measurable rain since the day after the election. That Wednesday deluge that we had the day after the election, that's been it. We haven't had anything.
Our human being. Easy.
It's usually the time of the year we start doing control burns, and I think we're gonna have to start rethinking that.
Force doing that.
I know. And you see how that worked out. They did one down here the other day. I don't know. I think you're gonna have to be careful with that.
There was something going on last night. I went out. Checked the dog out. That was last night.
Yeah. They've been pulling this before.
You see the current weather on the Weather Channel and it says smoke.
I know, didn't, yeah, mine, I'm like,
It kind of freaks me out because I have to step outside and look and like, oh boy.
This morning one said smoke when it was cloudy, so I was like, this is kind of strange.
Fair.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you being here. I just wanted to kind of start out and express my sincere condolences in the passing of Greg McHenry. Greg was a good friend, very professional, honorable person, great to work with over my career, both professionally. You know, we've done a few of these complicated TIF projects and trying to determine whether or not those estimates and valuations were going to come through for us on different things. And he's been great to work with and his team. And so, and then just personally, just a great representative of the county and everything. And so we'll all miss him very much. Just some updates. Wanted to let you know that the parking garage is, if you haven't been through Aggieville lately, it's really starting to take some pretty good shape. That alleyway between there and the Raleigh house is starting to to come together pretty well. And so we're anticipating the bulk of that work should be completed by the end of this month. We're looking at maybe early April opening for that facility. And that's kind of guiding the starting of the North Manhattan project that the commission awarded in December. That was a $6 million project to basically rebuild Manhattan Avenue from Fremont to Bluemont through that section in phases, starting down there on that Fremont end. Trying to get a lot of it done this summer after classes are out. A little bit lower activity there. And then create some parking garage space for folks to be able to utilize that. So get about 40% of that Manhattan Avenue work is all new utilities, water, sewer, storm sewer, and then new connections to businesses for water and sanitary sewer services. The other big project in Aggieville, you might recall last year, we did a pre-development agreement with Back 9 Development with the 12th and Laramie parking lot. So that's the parking lot there on that northwest corner of 12th and Laramie that runs between the alley and Laramie Street and west of 12th Street. It looks like they're coming along with their plans pretty well, and we anticipate a final development agreement with them next month, probably mid to late in April. That will look to, again, they're proposing about a 5-story mixed-use facility that has about 40% office, 40% commercial, and then about 20% residential. Those percentages may change. We'll find out for sure on their when we get into their development agreement. Since that's going to happen, that's going to shift our focus to need to improve 12th Street between Morrow and Laramie, adjacent to that site. We want to kind of get that done after they're done, so we don't interrupt them later down the road. And then on the Laramie Street side, between 12th and Manhattan would be the other big component there for, again, more infrastructure work, more water and sewer lines, not just to kind of serve that area, but pretty much everything in Aggieville is undersized, especially when we're looking at it to increase our density. So that'll be a big part of that, and kind of going to continue that theme of 12th Street that we did in front of the Marriott, creating more of a pedestrian plaza that can be closed off for special event, and some discussion about maybe even permanently closing that area, that particular block, especially depending on what they kind of developed as their adjacency to that facility. So more to come in Aggieville, and probably be updating you regularly as I'm down here. We'll be talking about that quite a bit, I think.
Just keep Chipotle open and I'll be happy.
There you go. I think, the original plan showed Chipotle not being there and being part of that. My understanding is they are going to stay, and the facility is going to be a little short of that. So they've worked around that particular aspect. So I think last time I was here, I did mention that we'd awarded the Phase 9 project on the North Campus on Kimball to Ebert Construction, and had that's when we got a part of the KDOT grant to award that project, and we're looking at potentially closing a section of that during the summer so we could try and get it done. The contractor came to us. That wasn't the original plan. They were going to be required to keep traffic open, but since the other section is planned to be closed already through the summer between Denison and Manhattan, the contractor approached us and said, hey, if you let me close this section, I think I can get it done on that same timeline and have it open by the time classes start and football is ready to kick up. So we talked to all of the folks who live along and work along that corridor, and they said that makes a lot of sense. Most people have already rerouted because of the other closure. So go for it. So actually coming Monday, that's when we're planning to close it down. Thanks. Those.
Looks like they're well down on the project already.
There's
a
lot of stormwater improvements that are occurring as part of that. So
they're doing work over there in that section over the fall, so that we get right after it. So
of course, K-State Athletics has got a couple big projects they're working on as well, with the new football indoor facility, and as well as the
training center and the volleyball.
Are they shifting the outdoor football field to the east side of that facility instead of where they were going to kind of angle it into that corner originally?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
It's going to take up a good portion of that east,
Right.
north half of the
It's
east.
going to take up about 70% of it.
Yeah.
Originally, they were going to
At
use
least for construction.
the old hill area right there on the very northeast side, and they were going to put it right there. And I didn't see any work being done there. And it looks like they extended it out. I didn't think they were going to redo the parking there. So
I do think they're planning to pave the grass that's behind.
Right. Yeah, they're working
So
on
they're
that
gonna
too.
expand the parking lot further east all the way to direct fields.
Right.
So that's something I certainly wanted to, I think the reader boards are up there warning people that that's going to close soon. But we will maintain access, obviously, from Denison and College. And so the closure won't actually be it'll be from the Green Science entrance west to the West Stadium entrance. So there'll be access off of Denison and then access off College as well. So we'll come on that particular one.
So you can still get in and out of the office building.
Yes, yes. Right
Denison.
off Kimball, you'll just have to come via Denison to access that particular area.
Somebody had asked.
I think they're gonna turn that signal off and just go with the forward stop during that time. Or maybe not just flash yellow.
Yeah, that's kind of confusing
opposite
right there. Yeah.
This past Tuesday, the commission held a public hearing on expanding the Starbond district for the Museum of Art and Life, and approved first reading they held that public hearing and approved first reading of the ordinance for that purpose. The second reading is scheduled on March 15th. Recall originally last year we approved them building that museum down between the Discovery Center and the Candlewood Hotel on the pretty much was the Discovery Center's parking lot. There was a lot of concern about how much parking that was going to take up for everybody in that district. And so they started looking at some additional sites. And I think last time I talked quite a bit about how they wanted to relocate it to the north of Pierre, basically right across from the Fairfield and behind the town pavilion. And so they've have an agreement with Icon Investment to purchase the old Sears building and the lot immediately south of that building. And then they have agreed to buy out the Manhattan Town Center lease, 60 some years left on that lease with the city, and for $1.8 million. And in order to have that land plus the Sears parking lot and the Sears building, the plan is to build the new structure on the parking lot. So the kind of the adjacent to Pierre Street, portions of both of those lots, and then renovate the interior of the Sears building where they'll do most of their digital display. So it's going to be a combination of two buildings, existing building, renovated, new building that's multi-story, much like what they've already done. So some of the next phases, the second reading of that ordinance is scheduled for March 15th. And then April 5th, there'll be a public hearing to amend the redevelopment plan for that facility. That was done for the new location, so it's still applicable to most of the structure of the building. That layout and the floor plan really hasn't changed much, but it needs to be amended to reflect the new location and there are some variations, obviously, with the Sears building. So it'll be an amendment to the plan. So I think you guys will get a notice, but we don't have to do the statutory notice of informing everybody in the districts and everything else. There is a little adjustment. We anticipate that obviously you have situations happening in this town a lot where something that was on the tax rolls and a nonprofit entity purchases it or occupies it and no longer pays taxes. So that likely will be the case with the Sears building. So there'll be a little loss of tax revenue. We think the revenue that this facility will generate will far overshadow that and probably will just be a lower level of, I think I figured out that even if you just compared it to new valuation, a construction for 21, it was about a 1% decline in that evaluation. So still think it'd be a strong project. There's several different development agreements we have. One is what I mentioned, buying out the mall and the city and the museum, a 3-party agreement. And then we'll have a separate agreement with the museum because the city will actually issue the STAR bonds for the project. The state has to give their final blessing. They've given their preliminary approval to that. But we have no obligation to repay any of those bonds. So they're going to kind of be like an IRB, not like an IRB, but as far as a risk factor for the city. The city is a facilitator of issuing these bonds, but has no obligation to repay. Whoever buys those bonds will be on the hook to repay.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
A lot of people, including myself, don't know where the old Sears building is or was. Is that the one that's on the alley or and then?
So it is. It runs from the alley to Houston and 4th Street. So it's the kind of the blonde brick building that most recently the Manhattan Housing Authority was in there for quite a while.
So it's a whole, almost a whole block.
It is. And then there's the adjacent to that, it kind of in the middle of the block off Houston on the south side is the town pavilion. It's not included in that. So even though the entire block is part of the district, the town pavilion and then the red bricks along 4th Street up at Pierre is not in that. That will stay in its current ownership and use as well. So it's just the blonde brick building that's impacted. That has been recently office space.
Yeah, and when you say they're going to do a parking lot south of that building, where would that? I mean,
So
south of that building is the alley, right?
There's an alley there that dead ends, and then there's a parking lot from the alley to Pierre Street that's fairly narrow. That's assigned to the Sears building. There's also parking behind the red brick that is theirs, and that stays. So it's basically there's that little blonde brick maintenance building on Pierre that's on the lots for the Sears building. From that building to 4th Street is what they're purchasing.
Okay, yeah, it's just a lot of people have asked me where that was, and I remember. I don't remember exactly where it was either.
I remember they were Sears building.
Yeah.
Also, this past Tuesday, the commission approved the $25 million in industrial revenue bonds for Meadowlark Hills. They're planning a new 24 independent living facility with underground parking. I think that's ground level underneath parking, not down under. So that's anticipated to be starting later this year. Next week, the commission has a work session planned for kind of the first public review of the housing market analysis. So this is kind of the snapshot report. This is on the city's webpage. If you search, actually, I think we've got a banner up there about the housing study. And if you click on that, it'll take you to the page where this and the schedule and a lot of the other stuff is. So that's kind of the first discussion. There's a survey that ran all of February that was open. I think we had about 1,400 participants in that survey. So that'll be part of the discussion as well. It's kind of here's our preliminary findings from the survey and from our overview analysis. And then lots more steps, planning kind of a housing summit later this year or early summer, shooting towards early fall for some final recommendations for how we might accommodate workforce housing as part of the sales tax that was passed. You might recall there was 10% of that was funding that starts in 23 would go towards workforce housing. So that'll some of the recommendations of how those funds could be used to help facilitate and what are the best needs that we need to do to improve our housing situation in the community. So that's something I'm sure you'll be interested in. Levee construction has started primarily with utility relocations. And again, their focus is starting at the southwest end of the levee down along Wildcat Creek, just to the west of South Manhattan Avenue. And they'll start working around to the other end, which is at Casement. There is utility work going on several parts of it for relocation. But the big construction will be It's going to be 2.5-year construction project, more or less. There's a little bit of fill on top of the Wildcat Creek section, about 6 inches of rise. But the big fill is about an average of 3 feet over on the Blue River side of it. So that'll be the big component, which probably will be at least a year away, I'm guessing. Olson Associates provided an update to the commission on our airport runway design. Recall we're looking at replacing our primary runway, which will require us to have to close the airport for air travel, because what they're doing to save some of the cost is to rubbleize the existing runway to use it for base, and then put additional base so it'll be elevated instead of digging out the old runway and hauling off the material. If we rubbleize it in place, it'll create a better base in the long run. When you do that, all those taxiways that connect to it, those elevations have to change. So you have to have some smoother transition, including the crosswind runway. So there will be a time, most of the time the crosswind will be open, but that period of time where they reconstruct that particular area and make those transitions, that'll have to be closed as well. It's on a glide path. Got permission to go out for bids. We can't go out for bids till the FAA awards us a grant and tells us they're okay with it. Part of the problems there we're facing is the Congress issued another continuing resolution, so they're probably not going to issue a grant until they have an appropriations bill. Yeah. And your guess is as good as mine of how that will happen. I mean, our history will tell us that we'll get another continuing resolution. So
I would probably say, being an election year, that you probably
we might get one, huh? At least for a year.
I'm thinking the opposite. You probably won't see one until November.
So that will obviously affect our schedule potentially. But the primary schedule is we'll go out for bid later this year, get it awarded, and then the bulk of the construction of the actual runway work wouldn't occur till next year. So next spring and next summer, that's the intent. There's a lot of peripheral work that can be done for that, but that's kind of the plan for that. Of course, remember we did get a Department of Defense grant that helps keep the current runway at 150 feet, and that's helped out a ton. Actually, the estimate came down surprisingly, and this will be a strong contract. So it feels pretty good. They've had inquiries from companies that, they jump around to airports all over the country to do this sort of thing. And so that was kind of a relief, because I don't know about you all, but we're not getting much interest in very many of our projects as we did. We just had another one bid for a project, benefit district project on an alley replacement, and it was 50% over the petition amount. So more to come on that one.
Are there any restrictions while that crosswind runway is open as to flights that can come and not come?
Yeah, it'll be limited to general aviation. So we'll lose our commercial air service for probably 3 months minimum.
That's a big deal.
That'll be a challenge for us, and try to work on some ways to get everybody that's been using it. And actually, December numbers were just a little under what they were in 19, which was our record-setting year. So that was a good sign that people are starting to come back, and we've been able to get back to 5 flights. And
I see the signs coming and going.
That's been good.
That looks full.
Obviously, when that's not there, and the airline typically and TSA typically does a good job of relocating their crews during that time to other airports, and so hopefully we can work through that. I did also want to let you know that, I don't know about you all, but during COVID, we'd had slow progress toward some of our FEMA projects, where flood reimbursements, and still working on 2018 projects through FEMA. 2018 was when Wildcat got really wild and flooded a lot, and including Village Plaza. We had a lot of damage in Annenberg Park. You might recall that big parking lot between the north ball fields and the south ball fields was a gravel and asphalt milling surface. Well, that flood put all of the asphalt and gravel into the lake. And so one of the mitigation factors which they helped us with a FEMA grant on was to harden. We paved that lot, concrete lots, and that project was completed. And now the follow-up project to that is to try and get that gravel and asphalt millings out of the land. So we did award a $175,000 contract to a company that specializes in that. It's a dredging company. It's actually not the traditional dredging. It's more of a giant water vac. And they will be able to pull all that sediment out of the lake, put it in big bags, and use a crane to lift those bags on a truck and haul it away. So
You better watch out. for
FEMA is paying 75% of that grant. The state is actually paying 10%, and it's been a while since we've got state participation in from KDEM on grants, but so we were pleased with that, and we're putting in the other 15%. So that might be an interesting one. You might want to watch.
You guys need to get some video.
Not a typical procedure that we have, and I don't know if that'll work with Tuttle Creek or not, but
Maybe some big bags.
That was actually Dan Hardman's, our previous public works director, idea on how to fix the levee. Is we were going to start a trucking company and dredge the lake and move it to the
there you go.
levee. You know,
Yeah.
have you heard of the plan for the lake?
I have.
Yeah, they're talking about a new system where you basically stir up the bottom and send it
Oh, and
down
push
the
it
river
downstream.
because they're losing river base.
Yeah.
And so it solves two problems is what they're really looking at.
We're good. Very good. So we'll try to keep you updated, let you know when some of that construction is going on.
Yeah.
So you can go by and watch it. It'd be interesting for
That
sure.
park is great.
How they don't grab the fish along with the
Yeah, I don't
The
know about
sound.
that. I don't know about that. If it can lift rocks, it can
couple
lift
more
fish.
turtles.
Those geese are pretty nasty over there too. You know?
Just nasty.
We did purchase some land. The commission authorized us to purchase about 190 acres of land from Star A. Star A was selling all of their land that they have in Potawatomi and Raleigh County. This was land we currently had a lease arrangement with them on, just for our biosolids farm. It's on the along the Zingdale Road, across from the wastewater treatment plant. We had recently purchased some additional land out there for expansion anyway, but this land we had a long-term lease. The lease just happened to be up in 3 years, so we were planning to renegotiate that. We've actually extended infrastructure onto that piece of property, so it was pretty important for us to keep it. And so we were able to work with them and carve that out of the sale, and that worked out pretty well. And then we also have wanted to bring you up to speed. We've been working with John and his folks about, I don't know if you remember, but Bluebill petition for annexation and formed and did some platting there on the west side of Scenic Drive and south of their buildings all the way to Wildcat Creek. And as part of that, we worked with them because you might recall we created a new entrance along Cumberland Road off of Scenic to get back into the medical building instead of it's just off Anderson. So we really wanted to work on aligning that roadway so they're across from each other. Now they're offset, plus that's lower down there where the current Wildcat Creek is to go west. So we've been working with your folks about how that can happen, and because it would likely be a city street next to the annex property, because it'll go through the annex property and then reconnect. I don't know what that distance is, maybe an eighth of the way to the bridge on Wildcat Creek Road, roughly. Maybe a little more than that, quarter of the way, something like that. But anyway, we wanted to been great working with your folks to work on that project, and so that in that situation, Bluebill is responsible for most of that cost of that road in that particular place. We pay for oversizing because we wanted that extra intersection with returning lanes and those improvements. So we would have participation on that. But anyway, we're just starting the planning stage on that particular project. So I wanted you to be aware of that. Appreciate John and his folks' assistance as we coordinate that. The last thing I want to bring up was just a little discussion on the animal shelter. I did did hear, and I've asked, I told Eddie he needs to come talk to you so he fulfills your quarterly report obligation. But we do have some issues, and I'd really like to facilitate kind of a working group to kind of resolve some of the issues that we have. And as I've dug into this more, I've learned that, you know, a lot of your regs and our regs that we both have go clear back to when we had the joint health, city county health department, and the animal shelter was under, and animal control was under the health department. So there's a lot of things we need to clean up.
So it'd be licensed.
Some of it is just the regs, you know, so the regulations we have in the city and what our control officers can do, and how we work with RCPD and dispatching them and when they need help. You know, our folks currently, we can authorize and issue citations for violations in the city. Technically, we can't do that in the county, you know, and what you're paying for is really a service that any person in the county outside of any city can bring an animal to the shelter and have that service. It doesn't really pay for animal control responses within the broader county. We do have service agreements with several of the cities, and most of those vary a little bit, but mostly it's kind of the same principle. They can bring animals to the shelter. In that case, it has to be a city employee, just not any resident. So, but a lot of the confusion, even with the police department, and we need to do some work there just on processing and who's got responsibility to different things. I mean, we've had situations where we've had bites in the county. Technically, under the statute, the health department's supposed to be responsible for facilitating that outcome. There's been confusion as to how's that supposed to occur. So we have written some things that really didn't have a lot of muster behind them, legal authority behind them. And in that sense, there's some risk in doing it. So because we did it because we thought it was the right thing to do. It's something needed to happen. But we'd really like to get together and where everybody can kind of try and figure things out, what's going to work best for all of us. And then we have the agreements in place and the service agreements in place so everybody knows what the authority is, where that authority and when it is. And none of us are held with any extra risk. So I'd appreciate it if we can get that going. We'll certainly take that initiative to lead that discussion with the folks involved, and then hopefully we'll bring some accomplishments and recommendations to you all into the city commission that we can put in place. So with that, I understand that we may not have a city county meeting this week.
Probably not.
Apparently, the law board has scheduled a special meeting at the same time. We've asked the Food and Farm Council, who was scheduled to present, if they still like to present to whoever shows up. But we wanted them to know that at least two of you would likely not be there because of the special police department meeting, and then at least one of ours. So, and we generally don't have 100% attendance at city county meetings to begin with. So we've given it back to them. If they want to present, we're happy to facilitate that. But if they'd like to delay till the next month, that'd be okay too.
But we have one other issue is both of those meetings are going to happen at the same location at the same time.
So I think we're hosting the city county, and they're down here for PD.
If I saw it right, it was still at the city offices.
That's today.
And the one on the 17th was listed at the city offices too.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah.
Well, we were told yesterday it was down here.
Okay. I looked at the original email and it said both cities, so I don't know. Just something to think about.
So I'm guessing they're probably going to say, "Well, wait."
Okay.
But if they say we do, I'll make sure we're not at the same place on top of each other. That's all I have. So happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, appreciate the update.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Now it's time for Mr. Owen.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Ellerman, Public Works Director. I have a request for qualifications for a North County EMS station. From what I understood it to be is what I put in the first scope of services and on how to request for qualifications. So if it's good, let me know. If it's bad, let me know. Dave, no. But if any things need to be adjusted, changed, we need to talk about or do something different, then this is the time. Or else I mean, not or else, but I intended to send this out for advertisement and to send it out next week. So
I have a possible adjustment that we had kind of talked about. I'd like to propose that we have enough space or have an extra room for a classroom that could be utilized by the health department for health outreach. Like healthcare, health programs and information that gets to the North County. I talked to David about it.
Yeah, I think, John, you look confused. I think what she's talking about is an outreach clinic is kind of how I would.
Well, a classroom basically that's part of.
Are we just talking like multi-use space at the health department?
Could,
yeah, okay.
At the health departments, I talked to Julie and she said they'd be excited to do some classes and, you could have blood pressure testing, you could have classes on healthcare and those kinds of things in a classroom. It wouldn't have to be huge, but, to outreach for programs for the North County.
Yeah. Not a clinic type.
Not a clinic.
Facility, just a room.
So if you weren't using it for health related stuff, you could use it for fire or CPR classes or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so.
I got the indication you were trying to move the health department.
No, just to do some.
No, that's I had understood too, but you, okay. Makes
Not a
perfect
clinic,
sense.
but just to do some programs and some outreach.
Okay.
For,
I think now would be the time to do that.
I would probably agree, yeah.
So is that a consensus with the board to add that classroom space for health outreach? I guess is what
Can we just call it multi-use space for now?
Because I see the fire department might have things they can do up there too.
Yeah. See CPR, first aid.
Yeah, those kinds of things. And, like nutrition programs would be good. Heart attacks.
okay, that won't be much, just adding a couple
Classroom.
Adding another
statements about an extra room and a couple places in there. We can,
So anything else? Okay, well, I can go ahead and make a motion that we approve and accept, I guess, the amended request for qualifications for North Raleigh EMS station.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve and advertise for the amended RFQs for North County EMS station. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Next commissioners, I'm up at 11:15. A break. That went quick.
Yeah.
That's good. I think this will be a much
It's
faster
pretty
process having it on its own rather than with it.
Yeah, I do.
So
Yeah.
this will go much faster this way.
In fact, I think this will get done before the other week gets
Oh,
done.
absolutely.
To be totally
Absolutely.
honest with you, yeah.
I would agree.
Better way to go.
The other one, you've got to do the dispatch analysis and then how all the pieces of the puzzle fit. Yeah.
Where you're going to specifically
This will go
place
much,
it.
much faster.
Yeah, no, I think it's great.
Yeah,
I
we
was
need to
wondering,
bring
I was wondering, I was waiting till back when they were COVID stuff.
Yeah.
When it got done, could they start stuff?
Have another room, yeah.
Yeah. That'd be,
Yeah, so,
you know, so the
good
weight
place.
classes.
Yeah. Be good for, and then I feel really, when people up there feel like
Right.
we're really giving them some
Yeah.
services in addition to just.
Well,
Same.
even vaccination.
Yeah, vaccination.
Get vaccinated. That was one thing that was talked about. Somebody has to.
Well, I meet with Julie every once in a while. I try to every week, but I suggested it. And she thought it was a great idea. The health department should outreach to the whole county. So.
I'd say it's something that's why I tend to golf. Go pandemic.
Yeah.
Can't do anything outside.
No,
They can't even, they're building
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Well, there's building and walking clinics and stuff else. I don't see how clinic.
No.
Just basic education.
Right.
Warm up tomorrow, then start out warm on Saturday, then start cooling down Saturday, and pray for rain.
It's gonna stay cool for a little bit.
It's one of the dark seasons though. Sunday night, Monday.
That's a hurt. That's a hurt.
Oh, rain. We need some rain. Gosh. It's like they've got some early soybeans or something in a couple locations. It's the only thing I'm seeing that's green, but they couldn't stay green long.
Yeah, but too early for soybeans. We
It's up there at the K-State law. Sometimes they plant those a little early to do some experimentation, I think. That's what it looks like.
yeah, possibly.
I didn't look at it real close either. So. And I get those confused with a couple other things early. Thinking back to my days.
Too warm, so that stuff will shoot up.
Get zapped.
Yeah. And I'm wondering too. I think that's what's going to happen.
We're up to it's fun to see.
Tulips starting to just
I've got a
pop
couple
up.
of tools.
Yeah.
We just planted some new bulbs. They weren't. Iris, a few of the iris is starting to fly.
Yeah, I've got one. I planted a
What's
bunch
the
of iris.
the big deal with the grass thing that comes out of it? It's not. Sometimes they pop up early too, and same thing happens. They get zapped. They don't get so tall that year.
Got a big cherry tree planted in the fall. I've been watering for a couple of weeks through the winter, and it looks like it made it pretty good. So I had to cut down my one, unfortunately. Just quit producing the last 2 years. It was a prolific cherry tree. It was awesome for 20 years.
20 years, yeah, that's about the
Mm-hmm.
lifetime.
That's what I found out.
Full size cherry trees. Pick on the heat, it's still because the birds have. You have to worry about finding the birds, but they can take what they want and stuff.
I love a fresh.
All of a sudden, one branch died. Next year, more.
Yeah.
It's cut down. It was probably that big.
Yeah, mine was this big. It was a
Wow.
huge tree.
How long did you have
As
it?
a matter of fact, I kept the trunk to make something out of them, and have the guy in Riley, I think, cut it down. But it was nice and straight, probably that long.
I thought about doing.
Was that big around? Yeah, this one was nice and straight. So, yep. I love fresh cherry pie.
Oh, me too.
Ice cream.
It reminds me.
It's great. Of course, warmed
This
up.
county officials
Exactly.
functions on National Pie Day. Maybe that's what we should do for.
Start doing that, and then everybody will want county officials luncheon every month.
That's not all bad.
That's
Just
good.
warning you of the
That's good
fiscal
growing
impact.
point. Nothing else, just pies.
My favorite pie.
More concerned with waistline impact.
Yeah, me too. You have no idea.
I signed up
I've
for
never
pie.
turned down a piece of pie. I'm not a huge sweet eater, but pie.
Used to like cake over pie, and now I've gotten older. It's the opposite.
Well, there's one I'm about to get my annual due to my birthday. My daughter is in PT school. She's a baker's apprentice. She'll make me a from scratch German chocolate cake.
Oh.
And it's just, she is unreal baker.
Sounds good.
Didn't you bring in something one time?
Yeah, I brought that in.
Yeah,
I brought that in.
that's right. Oh, well, gosh, that was, yeah.
I like
And
the
then
pies.
cream puffs if my wife makes.
That's the one I was thinking of.
I like the pies that I have.
I like all of it, but it's probably not good for me.
It's been good for any of us, but I sure
It's been
like
kind of a rough.
I think I'm coming over whenever you're.
It's been kind of it's been kind of a rough winter.
Make sure to schedule something that day.
Birthday's
May
My
10th.
favorite.
May 10th.
May 10th.
Yeah, German chocolate's my favorite.
Oh, I've been
And she does the traditional.
since I was,
Tradition, and she usually makes a mix of a 3-layer cake too. So it's.
You're too old to have to eat all that now. Hardening of the arteries and diabetes, and shouldn't be doing that.
Probably true. Probably all true. Could not refute that. How you doing?
Okay.
Good. Oh, good. I was hoping today was Friday, but it wasn't.
We were thinking it was Friday. Feels like it's been a full week already.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. This morning through my workout, thinking,
I'm supposed to get the budget calendar today.
it'll be coming up. It'll be coming up. We just preliminary put a draft of it together that I'm reviewing.
It must have been for last year. So.
Yeah. Just got the draft this week. Getting here fast. I tell you, a month. I can't believe it's already 1st of March. I think it was just the 1st of February.
Yeah.
February did seem.
January usually feels like it takes forever, and then kind of blink and it's summer, and you blink and it's Christmas, and
You're getting faster it goes.
yeah.
Oh yeah, flying by. Josh.
Okay.
Good.
No more in a minute though.
Huh?
You'll know more in a minute though. John says, what this thing,
You'll know more. I know how to do budgets pretty well. You guys will know more. I've been doing them for years. Ready, commissioners? Ready?
ROA. No,
Okay.
we're not ready. We're not going to read.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, none of us are ever ready to refill positions, that's for sure. But unfortunately, it's just a part of life. Change is constant. So, as commissioners know, give you a heads up that we need to fill the budget and finance budget and finance officer position, unfortunately. So, this is part of our formal process. I think the commissioners are well aware of the importance of this position, the critical nature, and that's kind of why this process was implemented for the commissioners to consider all positions and the critical nature to see if they need to be rehired. I would highly recommend the board allow us to have authority to advertise this position and start the process immediately. It's a critical time with budgets coming on board with the funding audit, so got the ARPA funding going on, and budget's just an ongoing cycle throughout the year. So it's a critical position that the county needs. If the commissioners have any questions, be glad to take them.
Who is going to be filling in, or?
That'd be myself and Michelle. Michelle is the AP person, and that's how we've done it before. They work on the numbers, like Tammy's reports that she does on the bond and interest, and those, I'll present those to the board monthly. We'll still have the same cycles. Yep. I have many years of budget and finance position. Commissioners know I was the accountant in the treasurer's office originally, so I know the county budget very well. What is a critical loss? This position is very important. The position has gotten bigger over the years, and so it's a critical need. That's why I'm here so quickly after the announcement, because it takes time to recruit and then interview and then get someone hired on. By the time they generally have to give 2 weeks notice, so it just takes some time with all positions. Elizabeth is a good recruiter, so that will help.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I was going to look back on the statement on the fiscal impact there, talking about recruitment. What?
Yeah, it's good you look my way. I put that in there.
That's what I figured. I was trying to get it out there, but I couldn't get the word in edgewise there for a second.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a new message, right, that we've given you, but I do want you to be aware that even with Tammy's years of experience, we may not be able to hire this position for less than she's currently making. The range, we have a published range, and we'll be within range. I'm not suggesting that we will outside of range. But we looked at this position. We had an opportunity to look at a tool that would look nationally just this week at all salaries. And I mean, this position in our area with some similar things was easily in that 95 to 105, maybe a little more right now. So this is one of those positions that is trending higher than we have in the past.
Well, I would tell the commissioners all positions are.
Good.
I mean, I just heard this morning, the city's doing a classification study, and so is RCPD. I was told that, possibly certain aspects of, and it wasn't administrative salaries of the city, but may go up as high as 17% is a recommendation. I've been telling the commissioners for a couple of years now, expect salaries to need to take a significant increase. And to remain competitive, to attract people, but then also to retain people, you need to be very competitive, and it's just getting more and more competitive. And I know it's not easy for the commissioners, who one of your primary responsibilities is developing the budget, keeping the taxes low, hopefully, and it's never favorable with the taxpayers. But honestly, that is what has kept Raleigh County at the forefront across the state, and one of the better, more proactive counties in the state, and always looked as a lead throughout the state.
But I think you can use this as a good opportunity to look at, the salary that Tammy was recruited at Jerry County is published. So, it's out there. You can know where someone like her skills and abilities has been able to go, and with what type of salary. And we need to be aware of those things.
But she's also taken on a sizable amount of extra duties
Don't
for
disagree.
that. Right.
That's going to be a good, awesome opportunity.
It's still apples and oranges to a certain extent there.
But the skill sets that we need are going to be in that same recruiting field, right? But yes, you're right. Our jobs are different between counties.
Yeah. It is interesting that the commissioners are well aware of just what other positions are doing within the community, and
including this one.
Salary costs are increasing greatly.
Yeah. And that 17% it's a little sticker shock, but it's not unrealistic.
And the unfortunate part of what I don't like about situations like this, to where you get someone in here new and they're going to be compensated the going rate, because we know what the going rate is, all your other employees are left behind.
Yes.
And it's not equitable. And so then that's when you start having concerns amongst employees' morale issues.
Yes.
And so that's why sooner than later that we do the salary classification. And Elizabeth and I and Tammy have been working on watching what other public entities are doing, and how we can possibly go about that. But it will be a large budgetary impact. It always is, if the commission would approve what is probably going to be found. But you guys have final approval, as always.
questions?
Yeah, and this is kind of a broad question. How are ways that we can develop more mentorship so we have people coming behind the person? Let's say there's no one apparently to fill in for or to take over Tammy's job. How do we get some sort of mentorship programs? And that's
Well, I mean, really what you gotta do with that is hire more staff. I mean, honestly, that's why the position's under me. I come with that background and I can supervise that based on my knowledge and abilities. I mean, it's just impossible to have duplicate positions at a high level.
No, that's not.
I mean, it's kind of what you have to do, though. I mean, like I said, Michelle is completely capable and will handle the AP aspects and other financial aspects. She's very good at that. So just like when I lose the election position, you just have to have someone fill in, and so you can get someone in there. And sometimes also what happens is when you have someone fill in, they may be the ones that apply for it and not get the position, and because you're looking for something else, and it can backfire on you as well. I've had that happen a time or two when a candidate that you were grooming applies for it a little early and isn't there, and they don't get the position, and then they leave. And so it's all the way around a difficult position. There's really no good solution. It's very difficult. I mean, we found it with department head positions, how we really didn't have someone that was able to step up.
Well, we've had a couple of department heads that have, like IT and museum. We've had people available that could step in, and it'd be good if we could figure out some way to.
I agree. So succession planning is something that organizations can look at. It is a challenge for every organization. We could have particular challenges. And then this position, I mean, Rich has really highlighted why this particular position would be difficult, because we have really two people that focus on this group of jobs. And that they're very different jobs and they're very different skill sets. So the person who is the assistant has a very different list of requirements than the person who is the officer. So this particular one would be very difficult. But like John's back here, we've talked with him and some of his supervisors about that succession planning for his supervisors on the different crews, and really grooming or training and giving those opportunities. Of course, a person has to want it. But it's making those opportunities available to people who would be able to achieve that supervisory skill position, and we feel like would be able to be a good fit there. We definitely are identifying and working with. You're right, we don't have a formal program, and it would not be a bad thing to have a more formalized. One of the things I would just off the cuff encourage is I have been sending out quite a few opportunities recently for supervisors to gain leadership skills. Today I sent out 2. One in particular, the KC HRA Association is hosting 10 things a supervisor needs to know. It's a $75 charge for a full day of 2 very expert speakers to get directly to supervisors. I think if we've identified people with a skill set of leadership, we should be encouraging them to go.
Right.
So things like that, as the commissioners might be able to support department heads in those ways as well. But we do try to make opportunities available.
And what's so difficult about it in this transition time, like anytime you no matter what department, is that person, when you divvy up those duties, they already had a full plate.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
They weren't sitting around waiting for this position to come open so they had more to do. Because our office hasn't added any personnel through the tenure of my career. Shows you how lean the county runs. A lot of other departments are that way as well. And so you can add personnel, and that really increases your cost also.
And that's also something that we haven't hit on as much. But salary is one thing, but we need to stay current with the needs of our personnel too. I mean, I was looking at a study recently about the need of HR specifically for the size of organization. We are vastly behind what would be best practice. I'm sure that other departments would have similar data.
But that's one way that taxes are kept down. We've been through many hiring freezes, and the reason I'm here before you now is because commissioners wanted, because of tight budgets, justification for every position to come before the board, because they thought, well, maybe if a position isn't critical, we won't hire it. Because unfortunately, 80 to 90% of most budgets, other than public works, are personnel. So the only place through the budget process to get a lot of money is public works budget. Sorry, the
the non-personnel, CIP, or personnel and all the other budgets.
Which comes with obviously cuts of service.
Oh, there's a cost. You gotta cut.
Yeah,
Cut
you
of
can't,
service.
you can't tighten it up anymore. And I think that's an interesting point because throughout this time, from what I understand, we started a little bit before I came, every position that has been presented has had significant justification for need. There hasn't been a single position that the commissioner said, you know what, I think this is an extra position, let's try not to fill it. So it's not a bad process for us to justify that, but it kind of shows that already we've really got our positions focused and honed in and there's not a lot of extra bandwidth.
I think it highlights to us how important each was, you know.
And it highlights the people that are watching. It educates people of
I think
what
there's
all
a
of our
good
staff
reason for it, yeah.
positions do and what their duties and responsibilities are.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good process to help keep the commissioners attuned to what the specific positions do. I think it's a very good process. I would highly discourage going away from it at any point in time. I think you as elected officials need to be able to answer those questions. And people say, you know, we have too many county employees, or why do you have this? You know,
Right.
You know firsthand because everyone presents to you each time. I think it's a great process.
And if there were extra or a little bit of quote unquote fat in the personnel, you would see that. And it's I guess it's comforting to know that that's not happening, but it also shows you that, you know, we are tight and, you know.
Yeah, well, I like the idea of the education of, you know, encouraging people, because a lot of people don't realize they have talents until they start studying it a little bit. And say, oh, I could do that.
And flip side, many of us think we want to be that next position, whatever it is in line, and we need to realize what comes with that. So that we don't get to see, because, you know, managing people is the most difficult job out there. So we want to give those skills before we throw somebody in.
And I think all departments are very good at doing exactly what you're saying when they have that person in line. For example, Michelle that works with you has gotten 3 promotions in our office since she began. You know, and so if we have some of those abilities and, you know, has the qualifications, all departments promote within first. But then that creates that other position that's open, you know, so which is more entry level, which necessarily nowadays isn't easier to find, unfortunately. Any other questions?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to fill the budget and finance officer position in the county clerk's department.
Would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve recruiting and fill position, budget and finance officer. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You picked a rather bad time to make an entry there, Tammy.
We're just bitter.
Oh, did we not tell you we're replacing? Oh.
They said no.
They said no.
Get the big red denied stamp out.
There's that stamp.
Yeah, we were going to sign this. You were not.
If they don't sign it, you can't leave.
I can't. That's right.
No, Gary County's gonna have to afford us some accommodation there. A player to be named later, compensation, something.
Cash, you know,
Yeah,
cash
cash consideration later.
Try.
Right.
Train.
Oh, train.
Train.
Right.
That's your
That
train.
sounds
Sorry, I was using a sports term there.
Sounds like
I heard you say that earlier. I was going,
I've tried that before with other counties and it's never worked. When they poach some of our employees, you know, or what they want to give back and trade, I don't want. So
hey, Gary County's gonna get a reputation. I got a Pop County person a while back.
they did.
HR.
They took their HR director. Get my ducks in a row here. All right.
Ready to start?
Okay, good morning, commissioners. David Adams, CMS Ambulance Director, here with a couple of different items for your consideration. The first item on the agenda is to give us some direction or
What's that?
No, we're 5 minutes late. So it's
25. I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me adjust my glasses.
And also, is he bad at math, but bad at gauging time too?
Hey, big step.
Yeah, right.
he's just trying not to hear me for another 10 minutes. So
I should have went after that law degree after all, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
No, probably not.
I think it's kind of easy.
We're not setting the bar real high to begin with there. So.
So Commissioners, I was tasked with presenting options for the placement of a new ambulance station in North Raleigh County. Ideally, the new ambulance station will be placed in either the city of Randolph or Leonardville. The information below is to help you in deciding which location is best. Each proposed scenario has unique advantages and disadvantages, which will require your attention and consideration. Option 1, and these are in no particular order. Option 1, which is this first map, is the proposed response areas if we were to place the ambulance in Randolph. So the Randolph ambulance, which we consider Medic 51, would be our 5th station. So just kind of where that comes from. Would cover the county from the North County boundary of Parallel Road and south to Sherman Road, which is just south of Leonardville. And would include the city of Leonardville as well as University Park. So Randolph, Leonardville, University Park. The ambulance station at the county shops will stay there and will cover the area as it does currently, which is North Manhattan, Keats, the city of Raleigh, with Sherman Road being the northern boundary. In Table 1 in your packet, you'll see the impact of placing an ambulance in Randolph when comparing 2021 average response times and call volume to projected response times. These projected average response times are subject to a number of variables, and we also are showing that there are no projected average response times in this option of greater than 20 minutes. So when you come down to this, the towns, we have those are the average response times to those towns. To everything else, those are the averages in that township. So, and when we project to the township, we're projecting from this, like the center of Randolph to the center of Mayday Township, because we had to pick some things. We just did the centers, so we could be consistent. So, if option 1 has the greatest impact in response time reduction to the northernmost areas of Raleigh County, which historically has had the lengthiest response times. Questions about that one? Okay. Option 2, Station 5 would be located in Leonardville, and Station 3 would continue with the county shops. The Leonardville ambulance will cover the county from the North County boundary of Parallel Road and will go south to Sunstead Lane, and will include the cities of Leonardville, Randolph, and Raleigh. The ambulance station at the county shops will continue to cover North Manhattan, Keats, West Toll Creek as it does now, and Sunstead Lane being its northern boundary. You can see below the impact of option 2, comparing 2021 average response times and call volume to projected response times. These projected average response times are subject to a number of variables. In this scenario, response times will be reduced in northern Raleigh County to a projected maximum of 32 minutes, and that is in that far northeast corner, which is just, it's just hard to get there. It's just a ways. So those are there. It is want to point out that option 2 has the greatest impact in response time reduction to the central areas of northern Raleigh County, which historically has had the higher call volumes. Our highest call volumes are Raleigh, Leonardville, and Randolph in that order. So this, by putting it in Leonardville, we would reduce the response times there, as well as to the south half of the county, which is where the majority of calls are. Certainly not all of them. And we will still be reducing response times to the north, but there would still be some lengthy response times. So in each scenario, the ambulance at the county shops will remain in operation, ensuring no negative impacts to response times to Wildcat Township, Grant Township, and the Tuttle Creek Dam zones, as well as North Manhattan and Keys. And then the last point for this is in each scenario, the new ambulance, as well as the county shops, will be included in our interfacility transfer rotation. County shops already are, so that's not a change there. And they would, between the two of them, they would transfer approximately 250 persons from Via Christi, Manhattan, to outlying hospitals, Topeka, Wichita, Kansas City. The vast majority are to Topeka. This would allow us to take the Claflin station, which is by far our busiest. They run 37% of all of our call volume, take them out of that transfer rotation and take some pressure off of them because they're pretty busy and so we're trying to take some of that pressure off of them. And I'll stand for any questions.
I don't really have any specific questions, but maybe some thoughts. I'm siding with option 2. I think it's option 2. And I'm not just looking at it from the numbers and data that and I'm not saying anything's wrong, don't take that the wrong way, but I'm also looking at future expansion growth things in the area. It's, I think the high school there is going to grow. It's right there. With the things Riley and Randolph are doing, I think you're going to see some future growth there. Probably really not so much up north because most of it's just ag land. So really it's going to develop specifically into stuff. So I think if you're getting the most bang for your dollar now currently, I think that trend's going to project and even be more critical moving forward. So like the idea of keeping M31 in either one of those equations, because we are seeing residential development in and around that area. We've got a track across the way there that can expand to 21 over there off of Thomas Weird Lane. And I think it's reasonable to think there'll be some commercial developments in and around that area. So I think in setting this up both in the short term and the future, I think I know it adds time to those northern boundaries, but we are still significantly reducing the time, and we're facilitating a larger amount of constituents in that area by putting it in there.
And that was my thoughts too. And I appreciate the work that you have. I mean, this was good information.
Short work.
Not just everything, but in a short amount of time as we work through this process.
Josh put a tremendous amount of time. I'm going to give him credit for that. I said, hey, we need this. And he's put that together, and GIS has been terrific. I can't thank Jacob enough up there in that office.
And
with helping us with some of this.
Just one last thing there. We actually have a tract of property owned by the county in Leonardville that could be used for this already too. So
yeah, we know there's a tract of land. Public Works uses it, and
sorry, John, not anymore.
He's not in here.
Okay.
So that's
convenient, right?
That's certainly something we could look at. We have not, we have not gone down that road yet because we wanted to figure this out first. And
where are you going first?
Yeah. But
I'm sure either way we won't have any problems with that.
Well, there's plenty of room on that lot for some county works. Some public works.
It was interesting because I had some people calling me out. Where are you going to put? You need to sit down and figure out where all the calls are. Actually, they've already started doing that.
Well,
really?
And we presented this last fall.
Yeah.
So So, but
the heat maps would indicate that your larger draw right now would be in between these three rural cities. And I would say that
puts between.
Yeah.
And I'd say it does the most good for the most people.
Correct.
In Leonardville. There's still a few. Even though it's still reducing, Sweet Creek and Mayday almost 20 minutes.
Yep. It is absolutely,
and reducing a lot. But the greatest number of calls, which I'm so surprised the number of calls in Raleigh. But
yeah, right. I think it was 128 calls.
124.
124. Yeah.
And you also have to keep in mind that you have an aggregate care facility there in Leonardville.
Right.
That's why Leonardville one just north of Raleigh.
Right.
Oh, that's true. That's right. One right out.
And then you have a community health clinic in Raleigh too. So all this kind of matches up and connects the dots.
And then with the vehicle in Leonardville, you're reducing response times to both schools. You have 2 school districts up there.
Right.
I've
heard a lot from those school district
absolutely. And if we were to go to Randolph, it would certainly reduce that response time, but it really wouldn't make much of a difference to the Raleigh County High School.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think this is, to me, it's helped really clear things up as where it needs to go.
Okay.
So are we?
Yeah, I like the Leonardwood option too, or at least for this point, going forward. If our predictions are right for the future, and with our new Rural Economic Development Committee advisory board, hopefully they will start moving up. And so in the future, we may have more calls up north and be able to justify at least a SUV up in those areas.
Okay.
And I also would say that it's kind of correlation with M51 and M31 gives a little bit of overlap. So when that time comes, you got one station can back up the other station if it's in play.
Like you said, when they are doing transport out of county transports, they're one kind of helps to cover each one.
It does, and we'll have things in place to where if one of them's out, then the other one needs to be in station. So
Can't
51,
back into
yeah, well, unless we're really busy, but they can't come in to do training. 51's on a transfer, you're gonna have to move your training to another time because we've got to cover it. Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
So do we need to make a motion for an official decision on that?
I would think so.
Okay. Well, then I'll go ahead and make a motion that we use and adapt map number 2, which will be placing a EMS station in the city of Leonardville for North County ambulance for the future.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to move forward with the ambulance station located in Leonardville. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, we're well on our way, and we'll get that RFQ changed, tweaked a little bit, and we'll get it put out. So.
And you're going to add Leonardville as that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll start to. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was thinking out loud.
We were both talking out loud at the same time.
So, and then I'll talk to John and say, hey, let's go up and let's look at that lot and see, because they've got things up there, but I'm not going to say that you can move things around, but we're going to see if we can move things around. So,
and there are some lots.
There, we have heard from multiple people in Randolph who said, hey, if you go to here, we'll give you the lot or we'll give you some land. My guess is we may have an option there in Leonardville. So, the first place that I had in my mind outside of that lot, that probably won't work because with the addition for the training room, but that's okay. I think we'll find plenty of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
They got some land right on the highway there. They've had a sign for several years trying to sell.
Right. Okay, you ready for my next?
Far away.
Yeah.
So this is a card for some purchases to keep this ball rolling. So as you're certainly aware, you've authorized the implementation of a 12-hour, 7-day-a-week first responder program from RCMS, as well as the building of an additional EMS station in North Raleigh County. The paramedic first responder will be housed in a county fire station until a new building is purchased or built, and which will allow for 24-hour coverage. These changes necessitate the need for additional equipment to be purchased. So what I have before you are the 4 big ticket items that we need to purchase for the 12-hour, and then as well they'll all transition over to the 24-hour. So we have an ambulance, a Zoll cardiac monitor, a Stryker Lucas, they call it Lucas, it's a CPR device, and then radios. So I'll go through these real quick for you. So first of all, nothing here is anything out of the ordinary for what we already have. So I'm not trying to say, hey, now's not an opportunity to buy something new, some newfangled piece of equipment. So I want to make sure that that's clear.
Technically, all of it is going to be new, isn't it?
Well, but not new to us.
Got it.
Yeah. Got it.
So the new ambulance is 2024 Dodge 5500 4-wheel drive, which is what we have currently. The ambulance that we are receiving later this summer, cost was $274,000 a little over a year ago. It's now $302,720 for the exact same vehicle.
I'm
in the business.
I was too. And lead time on that is 2 years. So, and then as I said, the cardiac monitor is $40,978.14. It went up just a little bit over the previous, and they notified me yesterday, the day before, that that lead time is now 60 to 90 days, which will be okay until that gets, that won't stop us from what we're trying to do here. So that, we'll make it work. The Lucas device, 15,846, 46 or 86, excuse me. We have one of those on each of our first out ambulances currently. And that's really important for this position because that's a long time of doing CPR, and especially if it's a one person. One person can get this up and get it running, but they can do that. But that's a long time of CPR. So, and then the radios. Yep. I'm sure you're confused. So anytime we buy a new ambulance, we're taking one out of the fleet, right? We take the radios and equipment out of that and we put it in a new ambulance. Right. In this situation, we're not taking one out of the fleet right now because we're adding to our fleet.
We don't have any extra radios?
No, sir. No, because these are all new. And so we did not buy extra radios, okay. Because they're sitting on a shelf. So, but then when this truck that we order comes in, if you place that order, then we won't need to buy radios then. Okay. So we got to buy it either now or later, and we need it now. So that's why the radios are in there, kind of a surprise, is because
the radio itself, it wasn't. I just thought that somewhere in the midst of the madness that was 2020 and CARES Act funded, we'd actually purchased a few extra radios. Maybe they're not.
No, we didn't actually. Just because of that, we're trying to be smart with the dollar, and then anytime something is sitting on a shelf, then it's outdating, and so.
What we did do is we bought radios for public works and corrections. So we did add to what we originally expected to pay, but it was for additional departments.
Okay, that's right. Okay. There was so much going on. We bought so much stuff in a short amount of time. I can't remember every piece of it.
We did. Okay. So as I stated in here, I just kind of went off script, but the total upfront cost of these purchases is $365,506.92. This does not include the ongoing costs. We're working on those, but this is the cost to get these purchases. And the purchases will be made using ARPA fund reimbursement. So, and that is why Tammy is here, so if you have any questions about any of that.
So the equipment here is covered by ARPA as well as the building?
It's covered under the revenue loss, the same as this new EMS building will be in this ambulance building as well. So you have a $10 million blanket for these kinds of things you're identifying. Otherwise, no, it's not authorized under ARPA.
It doesn't have specific authority like sewer systems do. So that's why we use the revenue loss.
And were we getting close to that cap?
Well, we don't know. What the new building is.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really what hinges everything, is where that comes in.
Remember, commissioners, we have CIP funds. Push comes to shove on whichever one. I mean, it's obviously the bigger building's going to get done last. So this one will be done. And so have to keep that in mind when you get CIP presentations, just in case, until we do know that.
It seems like to me, given everything that we've discussed in the last 40 minutes, that maybe some CIP things are just going to have to be off the table for a while. You can't prioritize everything.
Okay. Well, David, I asked you this at one point when we talked. As far as ambulance, are we going to need another ambulance besides this one in the next 2 years?
We are going to need, for just as our rotation, as our typical rotation, yes, we are. Yeah.
So it's a good idea to order two.
I mean,
I don't know how that process goes.
Tell you no.
For
yes,
ordering purposes.
Yeah, I mean,
one and then get another one.
Yes, because if not, I will be back in April to purchase some, for another one, because especially with the 2-year lead time. So.
That's what, because I know you said you have a regular rotation of how many years or more hours, I guess. You said more than miles, because hours count more than miles. So
right.
That you have a set time when you need it.
We do, because we try to, have to hang on to some, because of the event standbys and, and if we have to catch stuff.
When that was in maintenance, you use a spare, as you call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I call it anyway.
Yep. So yes, I mean, that, because that is a concern. 2 years from now is a long time. When you're, we skipped one a couple of years ago because that's kind of how that rotation works. But then this one we purchased last year is even longer in getting, it was delayed for 6 or 8 months. So yeah, if we could do 2 today, that'd make me a happy man.
But we don't pay for these till they come in, right?
Correct.
I'm of the approach right now with this. Let's get what we need right now and we'll work on those later.
Yeah, would a second one, is that replacing revenue? Is that ARPA or would that have to be a CIP?
Could, but since it would be a normal thing that would come at the CIP work session, I think it would be presented in April. So, it would be 2 more months versus getting it 2 years from today.
They're not going to give you a discount on 2 at a time, are they?
I don't think so. I can ask him. I think
worth it.
Yeah.
Question.
I'm not shy. I'll ask him.
And that's the reason for the formalized CIP process. That way individual departments don't come in here and make their case that seems really important right then, and then you've forgotten about the other 10 that may be just as or more important. And so that's why it's really recommended that all individual CIP, like his replacement one, not the one for North County, be presented with everything for you to consider everything at once rather than each of us coming in one at a time.
We're trying to do something.
At that time, it sounds like a great idea and the only idea before you and you approve it, and there's not something that's more important that Public Works needs.
There's nothing more important from me than from Public Works.
Well, in this particular case, we're working on something new. Let's just keep everything you need with this
separated
and keep them separated out. And that needs to be dealt with separately.
Okay.
Can't blame the guy for trying. It's not the first time David's heard no.
And it won't be the last.
We're doing yes on this part, so.
Yeah, correct.
I would ready for a motion. Okay, I would make a motion. I would make a motion to authorize the purchases as presented for the North ambulance.
Oh, I need to second it. Yeah, second. All eyes on me.
It's been, but we're just fascinated. We've had moved and seconded to approve the items as presented for North County Ambulance. All in favor? Aye. All right, I do appreciate all your work and Josh's work.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Because this was a lot of good information.
Right.
Absolutely. See, when we were looking at it, I said, "Oh yeah, that sounds good." And then someone said, "Randolph, well, that looks good too." But
right. Yeah, you have to
really, the details.
You have to. The devil's in the details,
right?
And you really have to look at it because my gut told me one thing, but then when we saw the numbers, it was like, okay, on some ways my gut was right, on some ways my gut was wrong. So that's why we spend that time just trying to get it done. Yep.
And you get to give all the bad news to the people in Randolph. I think they're going to be happy either way.
I've had one phone several times about this.
I've had 2 phone calls with what their ideas and how they would like the recommendations to me. I said, yeah, we are looking at that, So. Yeah.
That's all that's on our agenda. Everything else.
Business.
Make the motion to adjourn.
A second.
Moved and second to adjourn the March 3rd meeting. All those in favor? Aye.